So, first of all, very good afternoon to all of you. This is a second lecture on teaching aptitude. In last lecture, we have also discussed about teaching aptitude, which is unit 1 in your general paper 1 of NTA NET exam. So, some of the points that we have covered in last presentation. So, today we will continue with that topic, teaching aptitude. So, let me first present my screen. So, I will share a slide share, and then step by step we will going to discuss the other topics related to teaching aptitude. Yes, slide is visible properly.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, so let us continue with the unit known as teaching aptitude. The basics of teaching, the concept of teaching that we have discussed in our last lecture. But let us again start with the basic idea that what this unit is about and why this unit is included in NTA NET exam, which is basically the eligibility test for being an assistant professor. So, what is the importance of this unit in the NTA NET exam or SET exam? So, when we talking about teaching aptitude, we are talking about teaching. So, teaching that we all know to teach somebody, and aptitude which regard to ability. So, we have observed that all people have know that a kind of creativity of teaching or aptitude of teaching, how to teach to children or adult learners in the college. So, this unit is basically deal with the ability to teach, how to teach to the learners. So, let us start today's presentation. Uh, in last lecture, we have seen this some of the topics that what kind of the topics or subtopics that we can classify from this unit. So, in this, we have done with um, teaching basics, levels of teaching, models, maxims, principles, and objectives. So today we have to continue with this methods of teaching and other following topics. This is the revised new syllabus of NET exam, which has added some of the new topics like ICT's integration in teaching, which include online methods or online teaching platforms like Swayam Prabha, and MOOCs. And some of the ICT based teaching support system that today, for example, we can say this corona pandemic or in lockdown, we are fully use this ICT based instructional model or teaching support system to teach to the learners. So these are some of new topics that is added in the NTA syllabus. Okay, so we have start with the teaching or what is teaching aptitude. So when we talking about the concept of teaching and why its importance in this exam. So basically, as this exam give eligibility to all the candidates who passed, so it give an eligibility of being assistant professor. So generally, you being a professor and after clearing this exam, you have a job to teach to the learners, or we can say adult learners in the college or university. So, what kind of ability you require when you enter into classroom to teach to the learners? So, you should know how to teach and how should know the level of learners and what is kind of psychology behind learning, how person learns something. So, that is the importance of this unit that is introduced in this exam. When we're talking about characteristics of teaching, so on the one side, the teaching is an art because it is not the cup of tea of everyone to teach effectively to the learners. So we have see that teacher almost all the teachers in your life that you have experienced, your school teachers, your college teachers, anyone, so you have observed that all the methodology or the technique of all the teachers are not similar, they are different. and they are different in the techniques that they are used, the way of teaching that they are conducting, the methods that they are using are quite different. So they are creative in the way of choosing a proper method according to the level or the type of learners, adult learners or the children in a school. So that is a kind of creative activity to teach the learners. Similarly, we can also say that teaching is also considered as a science because it is a systematic way of teaching. Because teacher is teaching in a systematic way. First, teacher is teach the lesson, then he or she taking an test of the learners that how much a learner has learned. So, teacher cannot take a test before teaching. So that is a systematic way of teaching. So, teaching is a science as well as also art. And third, the teaching is a continuous process. This process of teaching never stop like learning. So we says that learning the thing is a lifelong process. Similarly, teaching is also the lifelong process, as it says that education of man never completed until he dies. So education include both teaching and learning, which is a lifelong process. So that is basics about teaching. So today we will continue with the methods. So teachers are using different kinds of methods according to their convenience, according to the kind of learners that they have. So here we will start with inductive method, inductive and deductive that you heard two name, which is also considered sometime a type of research. So if some of you are aware about the type of research, we cannot say type of, but some kind of way of looking when we are doing research. So similarly, it is also a method in this teaching aptitude. So what happen in inductive method is that it focus on uh, uh, known to unknown. For example, when we are teaching something which is known to the students, so we can connect what is known to what is unknown. So basically, the learning process is journey from known to unknown. So we connect those both the things, what is known to the students and how students can learn what is unknown to them. And generally also it can be defined as a journey from particular to general. So for example, uh, here example is given that when you are talking about a mortality, so when you want to generalize that mortality is a general concept, every human being is a mortal. So how you define that? So in inductive method, you try to define it with this, like example, Ram is mortal, Sham is mortal, Shubham or something else is mortal. That's why all men means general human are mortal. So it is a journey from particular to general. So we teach students first something that is known to them, what is particular to them, then we move to the general thing. So this can be also understood by a simple example of law of gravity. So Newton has found this gravitational force or law of gravity. So what happened in this method? He has first found a particular fruit, apple, falling from up to down, and then he has given a theory of gravitation. So it is a kind of moving from particular event or particular act to generalization of theory. So here the basic focus is to invent a theory where there is no theory. So from particular we move to the general and generalize the theory. So that is about the inductive method, which in which teachers are using some of the fact that is known or some of the particular facts, or it is also the journey from small to large. So first teacher use some small basic concept to teach to the learners, and then they move to the large concept. So that is about inductive method. If we see opposite to that, we have a deductive method. Deductive method is opposite to the inductive, where we move from general and then we go to the particular. So the example that we have seen, that similar example we can apply here. That if we want to generalize that all humans are mortal, so then we can also give the comment on the particular person, that Ram is mortal, Sham is mortal, and Shubham is mortal. Why? Because all humans are mortal. So it is a from journal to particular. So that is a journey where teacher first generalize the concept and then go to the particular subtopics or particular topics of that concept. So it is also the journey from large then to go to smaller parts of that concept. So that is major two methods, inductive and deductive method. Then there are the different criteria where methods are classified. So basically, we all know what method is. It is a way or different techniques that teachers are used. So it can be classified into three basic categories. First, the methods that teachers are used when he or she going to teach to the large group of learners. Maybe there are 100, 200, 300, or maybe more than that. So large group teaching methods are different, small group teaching methods are different, and when teachers are teaching to individual person or personally they are teaching to learners, so the methods that used here is also different from early two. So methods are generally classified with these three: large group, small group, and individualized teaching methods. So let us discuss one by one. When we talk about large group teaching methods, so we all know about these three. The lectures are more popular than team teaching, than TV or video presentation. So lectures with which we all are familiar, that when we try to teach to large group of people together. For example, there should be a 500 or 1000 of people in auditorium. So that require a kind of method that can be appropriate to all and which is less time consuming, or we can give a lot of concept that we are going to teach or we want to convey to learners. So in the large group, the lectures are very popular, which is generally considered to be very conventional method of teaching. Then second, we have team teaching. So in team teaching, it is a very innovative approach where teachers are also classified into group. For example, four or five teachers who are expert in different topics. For example, here in this series of net coaching classes, you have found there are so many teachers or a group of teachers who are teaching you differently in different topics. So they are expert in the different topics. Similarly, in team teaching, there was a team of teachers who are expert in different topics, and then they are divided themselves to the group of the learners and they teach them. So here learners are getting benefit of all the teachers and they are getting a clear understanding of the different subjects in which teachers are expert. So team teaching is kind of this element where large group are uh, convenient for this teaching. Third is TV or video presentation. So this is very familiar to you, where we talking about YouTube videos, some of the educational program that is coming up in different educational channel on television. So these are also imparting knowledge or a method of teaching to the large group of audience. So for example, in this lockdown period, some of the classes are given to a number of the students through the television channels, educational channel. So these are the method where teachers are able to teach to the large group of the students together. So that is large group teaching methods. Then if we talk about small group teaching methods, there are many methods when we dealing with a small group of learners. So maybe this some of these methods that you have also experienced during your learning process. So when there was a small group, we can use group discussion where teacher provide a kind of topic or a concept to discuss about. So there is some small group who are discussing some topic with each other. So there was interaction among the small group. Then there was a panel discussion. Panel discussion include 6 or 8 person who are interacting with each other informally about some issue. So panel discussion sometimes used for discussing about some social issue. For example, in order to find out the solution of this pandemic or some problems of farmers and other things. So there are some committees or 6 or 5 members of that committee doing a panel discussion regarding these social issues. Then seminar that all we are familiar. A seminar is a small academic gathering where the major focus is paper presentation. So participants present their paper and they discuss some ideas, topic together. Then brainstorming. It is kind of method used by teacher to make learners' mind more creative. So, for example, teacher give a topic that thinking about globalization. So, globalization is a topic given to learners and uh, ask learners that think what kind of effect that you observed of globalization around you. So the response that you get from all the learners are different according to their perspective, opinions, their experiences. So brainstorming is kind of method which arouse different kind of ideas from learners' mind. It's make them more creative, innovative thinkers. So it is very important method in small group. Then project method, where project are given to the learners, where they either work in small group or it can be also worked individual way. So learner can work for project individually or also in the team in a small group. Role play is also very important, where there is uh, more and more participation of all the learners and there was experience of real life situation is given. So for example, teacher is teaching about interview method or interview technique or situation of interview, what is interview. So teacher provide a task to students that doing a role play of situation that is interview. So there is interviewers, interviewee and kind of situation is created. So that given a real life experience to all the learners. Then simulation, where a kind of situation is created which is similar to actual situation. So basically this method simulation is used in training courses. For example, the training which is given to pilots or astronauts. So in training that is given to pilots, the situation is created like a space or the sky, or there was a aeroplane and how they will handle all the situation during their uh, uh, act. So it is basically the method which is used during this training. So that situation which pilots or astronauts are will face in the future, that is created during the training situation. So that is simulation method. Then tutorials are more in context of maths, where numerical teaching are there, and the maths teachers are use these tutorials. Then demonstration, that also we are familiar, where teacher first demonstrates something, what to do, how to do, then learners are doing that thing. So it's much scientific process of or scientific method of teaching. So these are small group teaching methods. Then individualized teaching methods are include assignments, or we have a presentation also. So in assignments, the topics are given to learners where they are individually thinking about topics, try to find out some knowledge, some ideas, some materials uh, from different internet sources. So here there was an individualized method or the way of learning is there on the part of learners. Then case study is there, programmed instruction is there, personalized system of instruction, computer assisted learning, where there was a use of computer in learning or teaching. So, for example, when we saying, let's say example of this, I'm using a PowerPoint presentation. So this is one of the use of a computer or some of the facilities that computer provide to us. So this is computer assisted learning or computer assisted teaching. So I can use this individually. Then open learning is there, that is similar to um, what we can say open education, where some of the universities are giving this kind of open learning, which is more flexible in manner. Then interactive videos are given. Then heuristic method which is given by Armstrong, where it focuses on student, which is more individualized teaching method, where some of the problems are given to student and teacher suggests nothing, but student himself or herself find out the solutions or some of the way to come out from that problem. So it's totally self-learning method, or we can say individualized teaching method. Differentiated instruction, where teacher provides some of the guidance, but most thing is done by individual learner. So in all these methods, the learners are learning something, or teachers are teaching to the learners in individualized space. So individually they are learning, not in a group or not in a team. So they individually grow and develop that, we can say, mental capability of understanding and getting the ideas from the teachers. So this is all about the methods that we have seen, which is basically divided into three parts or three categories: large group methods, small group method, or individualized method. I hope you have understand about these methods. Then let us move toward the second point, about learner characteristics. So what are the learner characteristics and how it is important here? So for every teacher, where he or she are going to use a particular method to teach to the learners. So how they choose the method? First, they know about the learners. What are some of the characteristics of learner? Either the learners are adult learners or the children's, or just a high school learners. So first, they know about the background or some characteristic of learner. So according to that, teacher can choose a proper method to teach. So learner characteristics generally can be divided into four parts. First is personal characteristics, which include like age that we have discussed. For example, the learners of under the age of 10 or 15, which include the primary or uh, higher school learners. So according to age, we going to use some kind of methods to teach them. And we also consider the gender, male, female sometimes. So some of the personal aspect or personal characteristic of learners, which is important to know to choose the particular method to teach. Then we have to also know about the academic background. For example, if we going to teach about Shakespeare or dramas of Shakespeare to BA students, let us say first year students. So in most of the Gujarati medium, the students who are coming from Gujarati medium, so they don't know anything about Shakespeare. They are going to heard the name of Shakespeare for the first time. So we cannot start just with different critical concepts or critical analysis of Shakespeare's dramas and others. but we have to start with the very basics, that who is Shakespeare, his historical background, and that. But in comparison to that, if we are talking about Shakespeare with PhD students, if students are doing a PhD on Shakespeare's drama, so our way of talking or teaching something to PhD students is different. So that is regarding to academic background of learners, how much they know about the subject. Then group structures, which is also similar to the method, that concept we are focused, which is number of students, how many students are there, 100 students, 1000 students. So according to that we are choosing the method. Then cognitive structure, we have also discussed this cognitive part, which is much dealing with the mind, or the parts of brain, that how learners are learning, what is capacity, mental capacity of learner to grasp what is being taught by teachers. So to know about the mental capacity of grasping the knowledge that taught by teacher is also very important. What is a memory level, what is the intellectual capability of learners. So that is included in cognitive part or cognitive structure of individual learners. So this much we have to know about learner, and then we can choose a particular method to teach. So there are another characteristics. Uh, so we will going to discuss it one by one. There are the four characteristic in this. So first, which is based on personal and social attributes. So personal, that we have discussed, the age or maturity level of learners. If you're talking about social attribute, so we can talking about this motivation part. What is the learner's attitude towards subject? Are learners ready to learn the subject? Are student interested in subject or not? Then expectations and vocational aspirations. So for example, I'm teaching this teaching aptitude to you, so I should know what is your expectation. So your expectation is that you can get enough idea that how to prepare in this topic regarding net exam. So that is expectation of learner. Their vocational aspiration, that what they want to do in future. Special talents that learners has, ability to work under various environmental conditions. So these elements are included in social attributes. So we should know the personal and social attributes of learner when we are planning the instruction, or when we are planning some topic to taught. Then second is based on learning style. So there is a different learning styles that learners has. So when we're talking about this, learning styles are some kind of traits that refer to how learners receive and process the information. So here there is one chart where different learning styles are given, or learner type. Some of the learner are a kind of learner who learn effectively through visuals. So we in that case we can use PowerPoint presentation, audio visual aids, like YouTube videos. So the this kind of learners can get clear idea through visuals. Some kind of learners are auditory, who can learn better through audios, when they hear some sound or some words. While some learners are kind of intuitive, where they learn the things from some inside hunches. Some are inductive, deductive, that we have also discussed. Some are actively participate in what is being taught, or what is being discussed in the class. So these are some of the characteristics of learners according to their different styles of learning, where they habituate to learn through visuals or through audio, or reflective part, or inductive way or deductive way. So we should also know their style of learning, so we can apply that into our teaching process. Then third, which is based on listening skills. So that we all know that listening skills is very important in teaching and learning both the part. So listening is a very important skill, and basically there was a four types of listening styles. Here there is a three. So fourth is passive listening, which is not mentioned here. So first, active listening that we all know, when we listen something to hear, to understand, to learn. So for example, all of you are listening this lecture to learn about teaching activity. So you are doing active listening. In opposite to that, the passive listening means you are just passively listening. So you don't want to understand, you don't want to learn. So this can happen in different political speeches. So you just have to hear that. So you should not listening that to learn something. But active listening is listening with purpose. You have a purpose to learn or to understand. So this is active listening. Then second is empathetic listening. So you should know the idea or some of the basic meaning of empathy. So to understand someone's situation, someone's position, someone's feelings, emotion by putting yourself on the place of that people. So empathy, the equal understanding. So this kind of listening is also active listening, where we try to understand the other person. For example, other person, our friends or some classmates are in a very critical situation or in problem. So we try to understand their situation by this listening, empathic listening. And the last one is evaluative listening, which is also known as a critical listening. So while we listen the speech or lecture or presentation of someone to evaluate, to give a comment or to give a feedback, so that is called evaluative. For example, our teachers are listening our presentations to evaluate, to give some grade, some marks. So evaluate accuracy of presentation or the performance of the learners. So this is a kind of evaluative listening or critical listening. And the fourth one is learners' characteristics, which is based on thinking style, how learners are thinking. So, in the group of learners, we can divide them into different three or four thinkers. So, some learners are reflective thinkers. They view new information with respect to subject, or they also try to reflect their ideas which they relate to the subject, or the new information that they are getting, or they relate them to past experiences that they have learned or experienced, and they always ask that why. So why we are learning this, why we are focusing on this. So they try to understand the every concept in relation to their past experiences. uh, Second type of thinkers are creative thinkers, where they like to play with new information. So creative thinkers are always creative in their mind, or creative ideas that they have. So they always play with new information. So play means they experiment with new information. How this new information can be applicable, how it can be applicable or important to in their area. So they are the kind of experimental in their mind. They also ask question that why, but they also try to find out their own solutions and shortcuts because they are creative in their mind. So they found their own ideas, creative ideas regarding some problems. So they are creative thinkers in a way of receiving the knowledge. Some are practical thinkers. They always look at factual information because that is important for them in practical way. So for example, you focusing on this factual information of teaching aptitude, or what is level of teaching, what is this, because set and next exam are more focusing on factual information, but somehow it also includes some understanding level. Then practical thinkers seek simplest and more efficient way of do their work, because they are practical thinkers. They practically apply the thing that how they can do their work in a very simple way. They are not satisfied until they know that how to apply their skills to their job or other interests, because they see everything in a practical way. And last one, they are conceptual thinkers who generally accept new information only after seeing the big picture, means overall idea they are getting, then they accept the new information. They will see the every aspect of new information, that how they can use that, how they can apply to that concept. They also want to know how the things work, not just final outcome. So they are interested in process, not only product. So they see the things that how they are happening, how they are doing the things. Then last thing, that they learn the concept that are presented, but also they wanted to know the other related concepts that may not have been included in the teaching process. So they are conceptual thinkers. They wanted to learn the different concept or relative concept to the major part of the teaching process. So these are the learners who, or some of the characteristics of the learners that we have seen according to their thinking styles. So these are four major bases of learners' characteristics. Now we should move on the educational approach. In if you have solved some of the question papers of SET and NET, so you will find that there is no much question asked from this part, but you should have a clarity of this concept or different approaches. Maybe sometimes there was a one or two question can be asked from this. So there are basic educational approaches which is look differently to the learning or teaching process. So first is behaviorism. Behaviorism, from title itself you know that it stress on behavior. So this approach focus on learning process, or we can say outcome of learning process is something that there should be change in behavior. So if we see some people who learn something, or generally educated people, so we see or we observe the change in their behavior. So here teachers or the learners are focusing on the behavior or the change in their behavior. So here some of the theorists of this approach, like Thorndike and others, they see the learner is passive organism. So learner is receive everything, learn everything from the surroundings. So here we take an example of a child. So child is learning everything, some gestures, postures, some kind of behaviors, even language, by observation uh, or the surrounding atmosphere. So here the example is given that law of exercise practice or law of effect means punishment or reinforcement. So law of exercise says that how much practice that you will do, there is became a major tool or technique to bring the change in your behavior. So for example, if we see that let's take an example that we want to change our behavior in accordance with uh, interaction with other people, how we behave with others. Some people who are not likable to us, or we don't like them. So something that we can practice, for example positive thinking, or see the positive parts of the people. So by practicing that habit, we can bring the change in our behavior, or our behavior with them. Then in law of effect, the theorist says that there should be punishment or reinforcement. So, for example, a child has won a match or any sport competition. So, the reward should be given to children or a child in order to encourage them. So, if once a teacher has rewarded to student, So then they decided that we always wanted to win, because this kind of reward we getting from our teachers. So that is continuous encouragement to the learners. And similarly, if learner or children has doing some mistakes or errors, so equally punishment can be given, so that change their behavior. So learners cannot do same mistake repeatedly, so because punishment is given, so it will change their behavior from bad to good. So that is about educational approach behaviorism. Then next is Gestalt psychology, or some of the psychologists who are believing in this part. So they believe that whole means general aspect is greater than the sum of the parts. Means, for example, if I say 1 0 10, so I will write like 1 0 10. Similarly, I can write 2 plus 4 plus 4. So it's is equal to 10. But I have divided 10 into three parts: 2, 4, 4. But Gestalt psychologist always says that whole is greater than the part. So if learners are learned in accordance to whole concept rather than different parts. For example, language. So it says by some theorists that language should be learned uh, continuously and should be learned with all the aspects together. So we cannot teach students with, for example, first we teach them grammar, then we teach them some vocabulary, then we teach them some skills regarding speaking, listening, other things. But some theories says that language naturally can be learned in a whole. So naturally, unconsciously, children are learning the things. So we learn Gujarati not with some, first we learn grammar, then we learn vocabulary, but in a whole we have learned the language. So this is one example. Another is that we can give is uh, when we observe something, when we see some person or something, for example, tree. That example I have also given in last presentation, that we see the tree first. So whole part of the tree first we see. Then we try to observe the different parts like branches, roots, leaves, and other parts. So that approach of education, of learning, of teaching is given by this Gestalt psychology or psychologist. In constructivism, the title suggests that when where learners actively construct the knowledge on their own. So this approach focuses that learning should be done uh, by the learners themselves. So learners should construct their knowledge where they accommodate, assimilate that all the learning experiences and the knowledge together, and then they learn. So for example, some parts of concept that they learn or getting knowledge, and then they receive some new aspect regarding that concept, so they assimilate this all concept together, and then they construct a new knowledge. So that focus on self learning part of learners. Idealism focus on mind, that mind is everything, where you focus on understanding part, how learners are understanding, so role of mind in understanding. And it says that man has a superior nature because man have a brain or mind. So learning or teaching will be easy if the mental ability or capability of learners are good. So mind is everything in idealism. While in naturalism, opposite to idealism, is says that nature is everything. So nature is a whole of reality. So what we see in nature is reality, and we learn from nature. So naturally, if we see what we are learning, we learning through our senses, taste, see, smile, everything through the senses, that knowledge we are getting. So nature is a source of all the knowledge that we are receiving. Here, mind is subordinate to nature. So mind here being subordinate. to the nature, because nature is everything, because nature is teaching us the reality, and the reality that is projected to us, which is come from the nature. So that naturalism believes in nature. Then pragmatism, that we have discussed, or we can get idea from the title, that pragmatics, who are practical in their nature. uh, if we're talking about this, so in opposite to that, we say sometime that some teachers are dogmatic. Dogmatic means they are still traditional or conventional type of teachers who are using still blackboard and very old methods of teaching. So they are dogmatic teachers, while pragmatics are focusly on actively adaptation of new models or new methods, or generally learning something by doing. So practical things should be there. So that is focus on experience. So truth can be created through experience. So by doing the things, then we can understand the reality or learn something new. Humanism focus on interest and welfare of human, or human beings, where humans are at the center and measure of all the activities. So it advocates cooperation of humans, mutual tolerance with each other, and social understanding. So with this three aspects, humans can get enough knowledge and understanding of society. So that is also one way of getting education or learning or teaching. These two are also familiar to maybe most of you. Rationalism, focus on reason, will be most important for getting knowledge or basis of knowledge, while empiricist believes that experience is everything in learning or teaching process, or getting an education. So these are some of the approach, which is known as educational approach, where they focus on learning and teaching as a part of education, that how learners or teachers choose the method according to the approach that they are applying. I hope you have understand that educational approach. Now evaluation system. So these are some of the points regarding purpose of evaluation. So I'm not reading out every point, but the basic purpose of this is evaluation. Why we do evaluation as a teachers? To see the performance level or kind of understanding that students are getting, how much students have learned, what part students are find very difficult, or we can find some remedies to solve the students problem. So these are some of the objectives or the purpose of evaluation system. So sometimes there are also questions can be asked from different types of evaluation. So here we will see types of evaluation. There are major three or four types from which repeatedly question being asked in a net or set exams. This is first one, which is known as CCE, known as continuous comprehensive evaluation. So maybe this can be better understood by all of you, mostly the department students, because we have experienced this evaluating method, where we are continuously evaluate by our teachers, like unit and test, quizzes, presentations, discussions, debates, and others. So continuously on a regular base, you can evaluate your learners. So earlier traditional approach of evaluation, which focus on year-end exam. Only at the end of the year you can evaluate the performance of learners. But this system focus on continuous evaluation. So you can divide it monthly evaluation you will do of learners or students. And comprehensive means something that you cannot just measure the cognitive part, but you can also evaluate the mental ability, emotional part, physical aspect of students progress. So it is kind of all rounder development of student. So that is concept of CCE. Maybe the question asked that what is full form of CCE? continuous comprehensive evaluation. The second one is formative evaluation. So, formative evaluation is more practical in nature. This evaluation is done at varying intervals like monthly, or weekly, or particular time period. So, it is also one of the type of CCE, continuous comprehensive evaluation. So, benefit of this evaluation process is students get continuous feedbacks from the teachers. So major goal is to monitor students' learning by providing them ongoing feedback. So a monthly evaluation, if you do, so you will provide feedbacks where learners can improve their performance. So next month they can improve in their different parts. So feedbacks are more important here in formative evaluation. Uh, then opposite to that, there is summative evaluation, which is similar to year end test. You just try to evaluate learners on the base of year end written exam. So summative is just checking the performance at the end of the course, or after the completion of the course, or any degree level courses. So summative assessment are more traditional ways of evaluating students work in compared to formative. Other two are diagnostic evaluation. The diagnostic means to find out some problems and provide a kind of remedies to the students. So find out some difficulties, and then you can give some of the solution to the learners. So what are the weaknesses in learner, and what kind of problem that learners are facing, that we can identify through this evaluation. And last one, which is placement evaluation. That title itself says which evaluation done for giving placement. So there is two type of placements that we consider. First for admission, and second for job. So there are admission tests or entrance tests that we can see. So give some of the placement in courses to the student. So first they are evaluating the students that they are able or capable of doing this course or giving admission. Similarly, some candidates are being evaluated that they are appropriate for the jobs or not. So that kind of evaluation with focus of placement. So that is done at the beginning of any course or instruction. So these are five major types of evaluation from which the repeatedly questions be asked. And the last topic of today's presentation is that we have discussed that some new topics have been added by NTA NET in this syllabus. So they are more focusing on online platforms, ICT collaboration with teaching processes and methods. So here I have listed four platforms which are known as learning facilities, online learning facility, or you can say learning platforms or teaching platforms, online mode. So first, MOOC. So many a time the question asked, that is what is full form of MOOC, which is known as massive open online courses. These are kind of courses which is generally designed by the very great renowned universities like Harvard, Oxford, Cambridge, and we got a chance to learn from very renowned professors of these universities. So these courses are available on platforms like edX, Coursera, Udemy, and others. So this is the group of the different platforms which providing courses which is open to all the learners from the whole globe, or any corner of the world can learn the things from the experts of these universities. Second is a Swayam, which is government of India's initiative, where the renowned institutes of India like IITs and IIMs has been actively designing a courses, and they are giving opportunity to all the all the Indian students to access that platform and learn the different courses. So full form of Swayam can be asked also, which is known as a study webs of active learning for young aspiring minds. Then third is e-Pathshala. So there was also YouTube channel called EPG Pathshala. So it is one of the platform which provides video lectures, tests, materials to learners to learn on their own. Swayam Prabha, it is a DTH channel of we can say maybe 34 channels are there which telecasting the different educational programs. So these are some of the online platforms or facilities of learning to the learners and getting new knowledge from all over the world. So sometimes questions can be asked also from this new topic. So this is a last point. Uh, Now let us uh, explain just few examples from this uh, GSET paper, and then we will discuss 2 and 3 questions from net sample question. I hope you have understand the topics that we have discussed today. So we are going to discuss these questions, and if you find any difficulties in understanding this objective question, you may ask. The first thing, is it visible properly? Questions.
Yes, ma'am. We are able
Okay.
to see clearly.
Oh, okay. So you can see that the questions from teaching aptitude ask from every topics like evaluation we have discussed, some concept of teaching or learning characteristics. The very first question has asked that what is the purpose or the purpose of evaluation is. So mostly as earlier presentation I have also said that uh, teaching aptitude is not kind of other like other topics which are more factual in nature. So here you should not remember dates, names and other things, but you should use your understanding, your common sense to apply in choosing the right option. So in this question, you may also experience that you can find 2 or 3 options can be applicable, but you should think from students' perspective. So when you see students' perspective, you can find one option which is 100% relevant from the learner's point of view. So that option you can choose. So always think from learner's point of view. Here you will see that options are given. So purpose of evaluation is observation, decision making, revision or review. So what kind of option you will choose from learner's perspective? So not just to observe, we cannot do evaluation. To decision making, we cannot just do evaluation, not revision, but we can give review. Review means say positive or some weakness of the learners. So that should be the more appropriate option in this. Next is what is most essential factor for success of students learning. In learning of students, what is most essential or important factor? So readiness of learner, teachers teaching, difficulty of content, classroom interaction. So if you see in this, it is asked that for success of students learning. So teachers teaching is there, difficulty of content sometime is there, classroom interaction is there, but most important from learner's point of view we see that is readiness of learner. If learner is ready to learn, then only learning process can be take place. So learner should be focused on this part of readiness to learn something. Then next is effective learning means what? Uh, which option can you see that define most aspect of effective learning? So first is modification in behavior of learner, consistency in behavior of learner, to recall information by learner, good performance of learner in examination. So last two you can easily eliminate. So elimination system in this choosing an option is very important. So one, two options that you should eliminate, so that these options cannot be an answer. So last examination, you cannot say it's effective learning. You cannot say just learning, effective learning is just recall information. So you have just two options to choose, A and B, modification and consistency. But more appropriate if we see from learner point of view, the A will be answer, which focus on modification, change in behavior. So effective learning is something that can change the behavior of learner, thinking process of the learner. So this how you can choose the option. Then next last in this is, which is most appropriate maxime for deductive method. So that recently we have discussed inductive and deductive method. So where we have focused that what is major maxime of deductive method, specific to general, general to specific, analytical to integrative, or known to unknown. So directly is focus on general to specific. So from general aspect you can come down to specific concepts. So that is major maxim of deductive. Similarly, they can also ask about inductive, which is specific to general. Okay, these are question from net. So easily you will find that there are something a change in the level of asking question in net and set. The net questions are more sometimes complex, difficult. So we should require more clear understanding in choosing the question here. Uh, the next question asked here is, which of the following techniques of teaching is more suitable for developing creativity in students? How we can make learners or students more creative? So first, lecture. We cannot make students creative through lecture. Demonstration, field study, providing self learning material. So D can be appropriate because self learning is very important to be a creative, where learners can use their creative ideas in development of their understanding. Next is assessment that take place during the process of teaching in the classroom, that recently we have discussed. Which kind of assessment which take place during the process of teaching, not at the end, not at the beginning, but in the middle. So classroom assessment, formative assessment, summative assessment, or comprehensive assessment. So that we have discussed, that is formative, B. Formative is this, it is a regular assessment during the process of teaching. The next question is, suppose a student, so this is situational type question. So most questions that you will found in early question paper, there are more situational questions. That situation is given to you. For example, as a teacher, some situations is given that some students are more mischievous. So how will you handle them? So four options are given, which is not fact based. It is based on your way of looking at, or your way of handling to this mischievous student. So this is a kind of that situational question, that suppose a student wants to share his problems with his teacher, and he visits the teacher's house for the purpose, and the teacher should, so what teacher should do in this situation? Contact student's parents and solve the problem, suggest him that he should never visit his house, suggest him to meet the principal and solve the problem, or D, extend the reasonable help and boost his moral. So, ideal teacher should do the D, give some help, reasonable help, and boost the moral of student. So, teacher should not say that go to principal and solve the problem, then cannot say that never visit my house, but teacher should be more ideal, or a kind of teacher which encourages student at every situation. So this is very situational ideal question. Next is, when some students are deliberately attempting to disturb the discipline of class by making mischief, what will be your role as a teacher? So that I have discussed that What you will do if some students are kind of more mischievous and they try to break the discipline of the class? What you do? You expel them, you isolate those students, you reform group with authority, giving them an opportunity for introspection and improve their behavior. So as an ideal teacher, you will do D. You will provide them another opportunity to introspect what they have done or what they are doing, and improve, giving them chance to improve their behavior. So that is the answer of ideal teacher. Yes, next is diagnostic evaluation. So how can you define diagnostic? So students performance at beginning, so diagnostic test should be at beginning, or focus on learning process, failures, degree of achievements of instruction at the end, or you will find causes and remedies of persistent learning problems during the instruction. So wherever you find diagnostic word, it is quietly related to remedies. So diagnostic evaluation where you find reason, cause or problem, or you will provide the solution, which is known as remedies. So D will be more appropriate answer for this question. Okay, next is instructional aids are used by teacher for what? To glorify class, to attract students, to clarify concepts, or to ensure discipline. So different teaching aids, like today we are using more online different aids or learning facility. So it is not glorify the class, not attract the students, or not ensure the discipline, but make our concept more clear. So C will be more appropriate answer. So these are some of the questions from GSET and NET paper. I hope you have get basic clarity about teaching aptitude. Uh, so this is all from my side. This most of content is taken from Commerce Net Achiever YouTube channel that you can visit. That is most important for you to uh, qualify in paper one. Yes. So if you have any question.
Thank you, Komal. And if participants, if you have any question, then you can go ahead. Okay, so someone was asking in the chat box as well if you can get the previous presentation. So again, Google Classroom is the only place where you can get previous presentations. So, Komal, we are very thankful to you for sparing your valuable time and your knowledge, and hope to see you again next year. So, best
Thank
wishes to you as well for your upcoming projects. And thank you, everyone.
thank you all of you, and best of luck to all aspirants for upcoming NET exam.